Welcome everyone to the New Orleans Home Search Podcast. It's Jewel Bakewell with Crown Jewel Realty. We're coming in the first and third Thursday of every month. And the goal of this podcast is to share information about real estate, educate our community, share some tips, share some knowledge that we all should have about home ownership. We're available on YouTube. So like I said, you guys can play back this video and catch the gems. Today we have special guest, Mr. Byron Cole on. If you have not already, you need to check out his video that actually went viral. And he is pointing out some significance that we all should be talking about. And it's the importance of home ownership in the neighborhood that you grew up in. So that will be our topic today. I'm going to start off with just giving out some gems, giving out some testimonies, some things that can help us to actually achieve that. And then I'm going to bring Byron in, and he's going to share some things that he's working on, some things that are happening in the city that we all should rally behind him and get moving in this movement.
Events are a great way for our members to connect, whether in person or virtually, at a designated time and place. Sign up to urbansmartnetwork.com and use our events feature to let others know about upcoming meetups, concerts, parties, conferences, or gatherings. With our one-click social media feature, you can invite anyone to an event, even people who haven't yet joined our network. Become an Urban Smart Network event creator today. It's absolutely free, only on urbansmartnetwork.com.
So without further ado, I'm going to jump right into it with our gems. So I wrote down 10 gems that we all should kind of keep in mind and know, not only about home ownership, but about generational wealth, about keeping the wealth within our community and helping out those that lack and don't know. So I don't want anyone to have the excuse that I just didn't know. The information is here. I'm here to provide it. I have real estate agents on my team that are on the ground every day helping clients throughout this. If you don't know, reach out to us and we can definitely put you on the right track. So the main thing is our city, right? So I moved away when I was 17, 18. I moved to New York and then I lived in Atlanta. And when I would always visit home, after comparing home to places like New York and Atlanta, I must admit, I would turn my nose up at my city and just think, hey, why don't we have clean streets? Why don't we have this beautiful skyline? Why is there not development in my city? And this is before Katrina. Why doesn't anyone care about what's happening in our community? Why, with a city with so much culture and love, are we subject to these circumstances? Why does everyone feel like they have to move away to succeed or move away to feel like they've accomplished? Why can't we do that at home? And I will always say, well, we don't have this store and we don't have that store. Why is that? So now I'm home, I live home, I work home, and my goal is to be the change that I want to see. If I don't see development in the area, that's my opportunity to advocate and to make that development happen. So I'm excited about this podcast because it gives me an outlet to reach out to people and see who else might be on board with being that change. It's fine to live in other places. I've done it. I love traveling and I love visiting other places, but there is no place like home. None. And everybody else recognizes that. People from other places recognize that New Orleans is like its own country in the United States. That our food is unmatched, that our hospitality is unmatched, that the culture, the vibe, the feel, you cannot get that anywhere else, at least not in the United States. So if everyone else sees the treasure in us, why can't we see the treasure within ourselves? So this is our opportunity to take hold of that. The main way to see that treasure and to use that treasure to our advantage is to own real estate. Whoever has the land makes the rules. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. Whoever has the land makes the rules. If you have the land, you can charge people to rent it. You can farm. You can grow food. You can have shelter. You will have a resource. You have an asset. Okay? You can borrow against that land. You can leverage with that land. It gives you choices. It gives you opportunities. And these are things that we are not readily taught as a community, but I'm here to teach that. So whoever has the land, make the rules. We need to buy the land, and we need to buy it in the communities that we grow up in. So I'm from the 7th Ward. If you're from the 9th Ward, 10th Ward, you're from the East, wherever you're from, you need to own a property there. Now, whether you decide you want to live in that property or not is your priority. But the point is that we need to be reinvesting in our own communities and using our own communities as our leverage. So this is our opportunity to do that now. If you check out my previous podcast, I covered all the grant money that's available to us, which is numerous. We have Orleans Parish grant money, Jefferson Parish, St. Tammany. We have 100% financing options available. These programs are here to help us achieve that, and we need to be taking advantage of them. We need to be raising our credit scores to at least a 640 so that we can qualify for these programs. I have another podcast where I talked about closing costs. People don't recognize that closing costs is an added fee that you definitely have to keep in mind when purchasing a home. So I want everyone to feel empowered, to know what's going on, to know how to take advantage of resources and to actually put those things into action. Right? So here's some gems. I have 10 gems. The first one is, if you already own your home, stay current on your taxes. That is very important. If you have family members, especially our seniors, educate them. If the senior is 65 years or older, there should be a freeze on their taxes. Especially in Orleans Parish, taxes are going up. Okay, taxes are going up and people are not being able to afford the rise in taxes. And that's what's driving a lot of our seniors out of our neighborhoods like Treme, like the 7th Ward, like places that a lot of gentrifiers are wanting. They're able to take advantage of getting in because they're purchasing these properties in tax sales. So if you know that your grandmother, your grandfather, maybe somebody in the family has back taxes, you need to work it out. Somebody needs to pay those taxes within the family, because if not, an outsider, a wholesaler, they will pay the taxes on that property. And if they pay the taxes for 3 years, they can then move forward with taking claim on the property. And that is not something that we want to happen. And it happens all the time in areas that are super desirable and not desirable. You'd be surprised at some of the areas that people prey on because they see the potential. So we need to see that own potential within ourselves. So definitely stay on top of your taxes. Make sure your taxes are paid on time so that you can avoid any additional fees, because the fees do add up and they set you back. And definitely disclose to your family, to your friends what's going on so they can help out. Okay, because I'd rather somebody in my family take my home than an outsider come in and take my home. So that's all things to think about. You know, it might be embarrassing. You might not want to tell people your business or what you're going through. But in the end, at least the property will stay in the family, which is where it belongs. All right. So number one, make sure you're current. Make sure you're paying your taxes. Anybody in your family 65 years or older, you definitely see to it that you go down to Errol Williams' office or contact them about having their taxes frozen. That's very important. Next is clean debris, cut the grass, and keep the receipts. So if there's a lot next door to your lot, you can take ownership of that lot if you maintain it. So there's no reason for any of us to drive down the street and see lots with mattresses, old tires, debris on them. There is no reason for that. You can clean that lot. You can keep the receipts, and you can take claim of that lot next door to yours. And the possibilities are endless with the lot next door. It's more parking. You can build another house on that lot. I mean, you definitely have options. So definitely keep up with what you have and keep up with what's around you. You know, there is no reason why our communities look better after gentrifiers move in. They become cleaner. They become nicer. It should start off nice, and it starts with us. If you see trash on the ground, pick up the trash. If the lot next door has debris on it, clean the lot. Keep the receipt. Move forward with the action on taking claim of that lot. And you can build your portfolio that way. And it's definitely a great opportunity for the area to look nicer and to feel nicer and to increase your own property value. So clean up. Next is disclose to family and friends what you have going on. Everyone, especially now during this pandemic, is getting hard for a lot of people to maintain their bills, to keep track. So it is important that you disclose to your family members, look, I'm having trouble. Would you like to take over my mortgage? You know, if you live on Esplanade and you're behind on your mortgage and you foreclose, the bank will be happy to take your house, and investors will be happy to take their house. Okay, why not let somebody know that is in the family that this is happening so they can take claim of the house? All right. If you have prime real estate, there's no way to open it up to others. You should definitely feel comfortable with letting the people you know around you know that, hey, this is an opportunity. I'm going through a hardship. It's here for you if you so desire. And not only that, reach out to the mortgage company. You know, a lot of people avoid those phone calls, right? Nobody want to answer the phone for the bill collector. Nobody want to talk to the person that's trying to take money from them, especially when you don't have the money. But if you talk to the mortgage company, you definitely right now during COVID, you can work out a plan with them. Even after COVID, there are other options available to you that you do not have to foreclose your home, as long as you keep that communication going with the mortgage company and you're disclosing to them and you're keeping them up to date on what your situation is. All right. The next thing is reverse mortgages. So any seniors in our family, grandmothers, grandfathers, great aunts, educate them. Do not get a reverse mortgage. A reverse mortgage can seem tempting to them because it's when the mortgage company gives them the money for their home monthly in advance. So they feel like, I'd rather have the money now before I die than die and then the profit for my home go to someone else. That's the wrong way to think about it in relation to building generational wealth. We want to build generational wealth. Real estate is the top way to do that. Leave your family that home. Okay? When you leave your family that home, that gives them leverage. That gives them a place in a community that they grew up in, that the market is rising in, that if the bank takes it and sells it, there's no way nobody in your family will be able to afford to acquire this home in this neighborhood. So why not make it available to them when you're deceased? In the meantime, the reverse mortgage takes advantage of our seniors because they are not giving them the market value of their home monthly. They're giving them a lower amount monthly just to pay them off. And then once they pass, that's it. So maybe they paid for 5 years and then a person passed away. Well, they win because that person passed away before they were able to give them the full amount that was due to them for their home. So it's definitely a win for the bank and not a win for the senior who moves forward with that. So definitely, if you can, talk them out of going that route. Have open conversations about these things so they feel comfortable with letting you know that this is something that they're thinking about. That obviously we all know our seniors are on a fixed income. Talk to them about their taxes, freezing their taxes. Talk to them and help them navigate through this time. Because right now everything is online. Everybody wants you to register online for something. But we need to make sure that our seniors are prepared and equipped to do these things and to take care of their business. And it's our responsibility to help them throughout that process. All right. So another thing is spreading the word and being truthful. So I have a lot of clients come to me and they're like, oh, my friend told me about this grand deal that they got. And then I go on MLS and I look up the property that they spoke of, and their friend did not receive this grand deal that they spoke about. Okay. So it's important that we keep it real with each other. Okay. If you pay closing costs, let your friend know, hey, look, I got this great house. I did have to go ahead and pay closing costs. It was worth it because I got what I wanted. Okay. You don't have to front and say that you got this grand deal or this happened for you when it really didn't. Let's keep it real with each other. Okay, that goes back to when people say about pay, right? A lot of the reasons why a lot of us get paid below everyone else on the job is because we don't tell other people how much we making, right? We want to keep it a secret. We don't want other people to know how much money we have. But you disclosing that and talking to somebody else, they could say, oh, well, I make more than that. Or so-and-so started off with more. Or no, the job usually offer bonuses. They didn't tell you about the bonus. You know, so that's a way for others to get over on you. And you definitely don't want that to happen. Spread the word, be honest, be truthful, keep it real. And that's the way for all of us to move up, right? So the next thing is, like Jay-Z said, don't kill over the block that your mama is renting. Okay, this is important. Even if you're on Section 8. I just helped somebody on Section 8. Okay, she had a 640 credit score. She did everything she needed to do, and she purchased a home. Section 8 pays most of her mortgage. She only pays $250 of her mortgage a month, and she lives in a beautiful home. Okay, so if you're already on Section 8 and you've had your voucher for 2 years or more, you can take advantage of the home ownership program. So that's another thing, spreading the word. If you were one of the people who actually benefit from that program, let your friends and your family know, hey, look, I was on Section 8. And I bought a house, and Section 8 is still paying my mortgage. That's a no-brainer. Okay, so spread the word. A lot of people are paying more for rent than they are mortgage now because rent amounts are going up. Okay, people are kicking tenants out in order so that they can short-term rent their property because they can get more money from short-term renting than from a renter being in the property. So why not own your own home? Take advantage of the programs available to us. Well, we don't have to worry about nobody kicking us out, nobody going up on the rent, nobody telling us what we can do in the property. Is ours, and it's nothing like having your own. Okay, so that's very important. Also, safety. Safety is major. Let's have respect for our community. Okay, have respect, because I'm gonna tell you this: when gentrifiers come in our neighborhoods, nobody messes with them. Nobody. They can walk up the street at night. They can walk their dogs in the early mornings, and nobody will mess with them. Okay, but we as a people, when we move into a neighborhood, We have to worry about that. We have to worry about our safety, about getting robbed, about our cars being broken into. We have to respect our community. We have to respect our children, and we have to respect our elders. And anybody coming in our neighborhood with foolishness, we Xing that out. All right? Because we need to feel comfortable with moving into our own neighborhoods. There's no reason why others should feel more comfortable with moving into our neighborhoods than we do. And that's a major problem that we have in our city. And I'll probably do another podcast just on that subject alone. But I'm going to move on to our next gem. So the next gem is letting your voice be heard. It's very important to let your voice be heard, okay? And our guest today, when he comes on, you'll see he does a great job of talking about things, talking about what's happening in our community, asking people to join in. Let's join together because there's power in numbers. So actually do that. Get involved, join in, learn about what's going on because it affects you whether you know it or not, all right? Next is seek professionals, okay? Realtors, real estate brokers, attorneys. We are here all to help. Definitely seek professional advice. Don't assume. Don't talk to somebody that's probably lying, okay? Don't go online and try to figure it out on your own. We have professionals that are ready and willing to help all of us to purchase a home, to learn legally about our home, to learn legally how to complete a succession when a member of our family passes away. And most importantly, to write the wills, okay? So if anybody else saw DMX service for his passing, the topic of wills came up. This is very important. Have a will. Lay out who gets what. And in that way, our generational wealth is happening in a way that we designed it and not the way the city decides that it's supposed to go, okay? So a will is very important. We'll probably do another podcast just on wills as well. Lastly, I want to tell everybody, I gave my testimony earlier about how I lived away. And I would always say, you know, why don't we have this? Why don't we have that? Well, now I'm doing it. I'm bringing whatever I want to see the city have, I'm going to bring it to the city. Okay? If we want to see the East come up, we got to advocate for the East. We have to bring the change to the East. There's opportunity zones right now that are available to anybody who wants to purchase a property or purchase a business in New Orleans East, the Ninth Ward, and various other areas of the city. Contact me. I can definitely teach you, lead you the way, and inform you about some opportunities that are available to you. But we definitely have to take advantage of these because if not, others will, and then we'll be on the sideline wondering what happened to our city.
This is Mason Weaver. As soon as this program is over, rush to the website, leavetheplantation.org, and get your copy of Raunchy Secrets Only Wives Should Know. It will give you information, knowledge on how to communicate to your man your needs and your frustrations. And it opens up a conversation, and the conversation leads to love, and love leads to a family, and family leads to freedom. Get the copy today at leavetheplantation.org.
I would like to now bring in Mr. Byron Cole. He's an abolitionist. He's the founder of Fathers Advocacy. He's a leader in our community, and I'm so happy and humbled that he was able to join us today. And I'm just happy to have you here, Mr. Byron. You're ready to join in?
I appreciate you having me.
So tell me a little bit more about you, Byron.
You know, that's a very difficult thing. in terms of why I'm on your show today, I've gotten to a level of discontentment with what's going on in my environment. And, enough is enough. And I've been able to pinpoint a second-class citizenry in my city that pertains to the indigenous. And I've been trying to point that out for a decade now. And so I've had a video go viral, which has now sparked a conversation citywide. But I have other videos on my page with 40, 50, 30, 20, 70,000 likes. And so the city knows that I've been trying to point out the double standards. And I'm just happy at this point that there was a catalyst that brought us to this conversation.
Awesome. So I want you mentioned the viral video. I'm sure all of us have seen it. But for those who have not seen it, I want to hear from your point of view, your perspective. What was going on in that video? What was happening?
I think the video speaks for itself. I don't think there's anything I can add that people didn't see. I don't like the confusion surrounded regarding the video. It's the same confusion that the Confederate sentiment tried to use with the video that we saw of George Floyd. You saw what you saw. So once I got to the point where I could abandon, formality when she was so abrupt and rude in her stances, and I was able to realize that her actions were sparked by a sentiment, like it wasn't a mistake. And so that's why I let her have that good old-fashioned 7-wall lashing. You feel me?
We all enjoyed it. We're entertained by it.
Yeah, I wanted people to understand, though, that I did that on purpose, and I'm not relegated to that behavior, and that everybody in New Orleans is capable of that if pushed to where I was being pushed. I watched my property tax double. I watched all kinds of things. I watched my neighbors be forced out of rental properties and replaced with 3 people from other places that aren't even gainfully employed, and they're not our color. And so, enough is enough. And it was time to take a stand. But I didn't pick that fight either. My neighbors were calling me. That's what people don't understand. My mother was just selected, in the 300 most influential New Orleanians ever. And in the midst of her doing that, she created a community center at our family home. And so the people were just following suit like they had always done by contacting my home and telling them what the neighborhood problem was. And that's what everybody seems to leave out of the narrative.
Right. So, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I love that your home is the fort, right? It's the place that everybody, you feel like, okay, somebody got my back. I know that somebody's going to come up and stand for something. And I like that you talked about the double standard of it all, because I can remember that when short-term rentals first came to our city, they would call the police and complain about second lines, about the music and the loudness happening all night long. Well, guess what? You're in New Orleans, baby. And second lines is what we do. So these are people who don't understand, and they come to our city and they just take their privilege and think that it can be enforced. And I think that you pointed out that double standard of it all, that, hey, we need permits if we want to do something like this. And so do you.
Well,
inconveniencing us all.
I was going to say, allow me to interject also and say that, so a lady who was in my mama's high school class, one of her partners, right? Her granddaughter was going down the street. And initially there were just the cones that were stolen from the city there. But when she got to that point, she moved the cones and got through and was harassed by that same crowd, right? That's what started all of this, the influx of people contacting me. And so there were other people that called me from my neighborhood that were upset about being inconvenienced and having to go around. And so I make that point and start with that premise to say that passive aggression is still aggression. Mm-hmm. And we must note that gentrification is a passive aggression, and the vehicle to the highway, if you will, for gentrification is privatization, in my opinion, and, not having checks and balances in your political system.
New Orleans Home Search by Crown Jewel Realty allows you to search listings in New Orleans and surrounding areas. There's a filters icon in the upper right-hand corner. It allows you to customize your search to fit all your real estate needs. You can search listings, favorite listings, schedule showings, even run numbers in the mortgage calculator, and locate local schools with high ratings. Most of all, it allows you to connect directly with Crown Jewel Realty agents. Download New Orleans Home Search today. I've been watching your videos, and I don't know if you're ready to jump into this or not, but I love the video that you posted talking about the Mahalia Jackson relocation of City Hall. And I personally think that it would be the most horrible thing that we could do to Treme is put City Hall there, okay? Because that's attached to Congo Square. And to share some history on that, Congo Square was the one place that slaves had to enjoy themselves, to feel free,
to gather without it being a crime. To gather without it being a crime. That's the exact verbiage.
Exactly. To gather without it being a crime. To play their drums, to celebrate, to unwind, to feel free. Even though they weren't physically free, they felt free. So I do believe that that is sacred ground. That is sacred ground. And it's a very historical part of our city. And anybody who is from here, I think especially has a special place in their heart for the Mahalia Jackson Center. My Sweet 16 was there, and we all had something going on there before Katrina. And I think, yes, it does need to be revived, and it does need to be pumped up and renovated and set up to standard, yes. Does it need to be a city hall? No, it does not. And in your video, you made a great point that if you want a place to put city hall, if you want a place to spend these government funds that are available to us, spend them in New Orleans East. So that's something else that I wanted you to definitely touch on today.
Okay, so I'm from the 7th Ward. And my mama's from Liberty, Mississippi. But when she was about 4 years old, they moved to New Orleans. And her first residence was in the Desire Project. So mama, that's what she claimed to all the way out, the 9, the Desire, right? And so I spent a lot of my time back there in the 9th Ward. And the only other place I've ever lived in New Orleans besides the 7th Ward is in the East, on East Rockton Circle, right? Yeah. And so I saw on the ground floor what the expectations were for the East, because at the time my mother was dating a professional football player, and that was the crowd that they were attracting there, and it was nice. And the plaza was built, and the amenities were coming, right? Mel Blount from the Pittsburgh Steelers lived like right down across Morrison from us. Blaine Bondi grew up in my neighborhood. Mr. Paul Bollier, Samantha Bollier, they lived right down the street from us. And so I understand what they had slated for the East, right? So really that started to be, there was a degradation that began before Katrina. And I'm not sure why, but I know one factor that contributed to that was the fact that we need to let go of the holding all of our amenities for our city downtown. It doesn't have to be done that way. If you look at Atlanta, they have one downtown, but it's stretched out. And what did that do? That created commerce in the middle and an outpour of people that wanted to come there and space to facilitate them. All right. If you look at Houston, they have 3 clusters of buildings that are bigger than our downtown. And it's a brilliant plan. Kansas City has downtown and Crown Center. And they've been, couple buildings in each spot for the last 40 years. But over those 40 years in the interim, we see buildings have come in between. And now that's another major metropolitan that has outgrown New Orleans. So when I ran for mayor and was shut out of the election, I proposed to bring industry to New Orleans East, the textile industry in particular, and a tech center with a downtown. And so why not kick that off with City Hall and those other 12 and 10-story buildings that they have already put in the works that are going to ruin the atmosphere of Treme. Not to mention the fact that Treme, Congo Square, and Mahalia Jackson Center are all and Louis Armstrong Park are all things that already add to our economic structure via tourism. Why mess with that?
Yes, that's exactly right. And they've been advocating for the opportunity zones, but now they're not taking advantage of the opportunity zones. So what's that about? What message does that tell our community? Oh, we want you to invest in this area, but we're not going to, but you do it.
I ran for mayor in 2017, and Katrina was 2005. Was it? I'm asking.
Yes, it was.
Okay. So when I got home, it was 2012 when I returned home to live, right? And I drove around and I saw the ninth ward in the east look just like it did after Katrina. And I said, it's funny. I've been traveling to Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, even Alabama and Memphis have had significant growth, infrastructure growth in their downtown districts since 2005, but New Orleans had none at all. And so when I ran for mayor in 2017, I saw a correlation. I don't know exactly what can be taken from it, but I saw a empirical data correlation that 5 days after mayor-elect was determined, we saw cranes starting to come to New Orleans. And so that, to me, lets me understand that at least whoever is manipulating that, other than politics, I'm talking about financially manipulating that, wanted to make sure that they would have a friendly cabinet in which to do business with. And I make that inference because we saw things like the debacle with the Hard Rock Cafe and how long it took for us to stand as a city and force them to correct that, right?
Yeah.
And then coincidentally, we saw that our elected officials received money in their PACs from those companies. And so we have to discuss these things. But in New Orleans, when you begin to call contradictions, you're blackballed. Or, it's a different show, but I could tell you men that have been murdered for calling contradictions in New Orleans.
Versus the family and my family entertainment and his team, no sleep, flossy high, and yeah, we made it. The haters keep on hating on the songs that we be making, and I heard they want my soul, Illuminati wanna take it. Two versus the family and my family entertainment and his team, no sleep, flossy high, and yeah, we made it. The haters keep on hating on the songs that we be making, and I heard they want my soul, Illuminati wanna take it.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, because somewhere around the world, that is truly what time it is. I'm Montega and Tone Tucker, Tony X, and we've moved our political content, the greatest political content, which is now uncensored, to urbansmartnetwork.com. Make sure you tune in 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, only on urbansmartnetwork.com.
Only on urbansmartnetwork.com.
You brought up Katrina too, and that's something I really wanted to touch on the show tonight, because when you're from New Orleans, we have a timeline. It's before Katrina and after Katrina. So I really wanted to talk to you more about what the city was like before Katrina.
Well, if you bar the death, right? And if you bar the dysfunction and the emotional damage to the people, the city itself, it was an opportunity to heal. I was a contractor for 12 years, so I could tell by the damage in some areas that weren't even right by the levee, where houses were pushed off foundations that, that house probably didn't need to be standing, and what some areas look like, and even the nice areas right in the middle of the block, one house, would be, doing its own thing, right? And so what that's significant of is abject poverty. And Katrina exposed that, New Orleans still had people that had, dedicated their lives and professionalism to hospitality industry positions, and even had management positions, and were still making $8 an hour in 2005. I tell this story and people think I'm exaggerating, but I didn't do it in front of her. I let her get out the car first. But once I took my aunt, who was a manager in housekeeping, the top housekeeper in the whole facility in a big hotel in New Orleans. And something was wrong with her vehicle. I took her to run some errands, and then I took her to pick up her check and cash it. And it's a good thing her bank was right by her house, because she cashed her check and, she was transparent about the transaction. And when I saw what her check was, and at the time I had no real credentials or anything, and I was almost making twice what she was making. And when I contemplated the dedication she gave them, and how on Christmas we'd be waiting for her to get home, and she'd be done cook dinner before she left. And, I began to go on a crusade to, get people to realize that the hospitality industry has a stranglehold on my people. Yes. And that we haven't had an elected official yet on the state level or on the municipal level that's willing to address that. And so when the abject poverty was exposed, I'm just pointing out that there were silver linings to Katrina beyond the suffering, right? And so once that was exposed, it was like putting a target on my back and telling me to walk through the gun range. Because we got what you call those wholesalers who will call you and ask you about your property. And then no matter how politely you tell them no or that you're disinterested, they call and make false claims about the structure of your property. And I've had to fight them off me for 100% deterioration claims when that was true. And so if you won't sell them your house, they'll just put the system on you. And then that becomes more meticulous than if you live there, because then you start to see that the people who live around the house and they're still in the house, they ain't even having to manage their grass to the level of what now the wholesalers have put this alert on you. And so being subjected to abject poverty and then having to deal with the isms and no reciprocity from being the lower hanging fruit is what makes me speak out. So since Katrina, what has changed? What has changed is a demographic of people that moved to my city who are just as bogus as the people who weren't Black that were killing themselves when Fannie Mae folded. They knew that those people couldn't get those loans, but it didn't matter because they weren't Black. And so now we have neighbors who own properties that we couldn't even find a price point to, even though we knew the original owners. There were no signage or nothing. That's how they came. And then these people from Alabama and Connecticut came and purchased these homes. And we quickly figured out that it was a scandal because they weren't classified employees in any corporations. Gentrification is usually a process where they justify it by an upgrade of the citizenry and in terms of the tax base and how they contribute. Well, what we found in New Orleans was the bartender that moved here from Iowa at the Funky Butt can buy the $300,000 house across the street from me, where I'm denied access to those type of loans. And even when I am given access, they're so predatory that if that $300,000 house winds up costing $500,000. And so they struggle and have to, then all the people they meet that are wandering through get to be their roommates, and we have to deal with all the dope on their porch and all the extra things. And then they make enough money after that, of this group of transients they bring and funnel through to support themselves, that now they, make one side of their house 2 different Airbnbs. One's a a long-term rental, and the front's a short-term rental, and they live on the other side. Now they balling, and they got new cars, and now this is their neighborhood, and they're from New Orleans. And it's so frustrating. And so that is the spirit in which I approach the situation of my elderly neighbors calling me and telling me with their tenure in this neighborhood and with who they are specifically to this community, that these new people who own multiple properties on the next block and try to register them all as short-term rentals, and have people that they have occupying their short-term rental enjoying the concert that they blocked my street off for. And we have NOPD just as recently as yesterday on Instagram, on my page on live, saying that they haven't seen a need to come with any punitive damage for this citizen. And on my video, you clearly see her approach me with a margarita, which she was drinking, and I smell it on her breath. And she moved her car on my video. That's drinking and driving. You saw the kids in the video when she indecent exposed herself. She stole city property and she blocked off a major thoroughfare from emergency services. And our police department didn't see any need to file any charges. And I had to demand that we get a report that the document that it even happened. And I have over 10 New Orleans citizens that are indigenous that are coming to my next protest because they face $4,000 and $5,000 fines for their Airbnbs promoting anything that blocked the street.
Urban Smart Studios is a full-service multimedia production company specializing in fast turnaround and excellent attention to detail. With over 25 years' experience as audiovisual experts, our digital designers possess extensive hands-on experience. Why trust your brand with anyone else? Our digital designers are superstars with live streaming solutions, brand development, digital media solutions, videography and photography, marketing campaigns, audiovisual solutions, post-production, and more. Let us help transform your vision into a campaign that will turn heads and, more importantly, make sales. We believe in premium results. Schedule your next project with us today. It's absolutely free. Only on urbansmartstudios.com.
What you're saying is she never got cited. Nothing happened to her from that whole incident.
So I knew the implications of what she had done. I wanted the officer to go down there, realize that she had 2 Airbnbs occupied with people sitting on the porches, enjoying the concert, right? I wanted him to see the whole picture. He didn't even want to go back down and talk. He never even went back down and approached that lady. It's handled differently in situations with Black people, no matter how upstanding they are in our community. That's why we are facing having the oldest Black neighborhood in America be defaced with modern buildings and where you can't even look out your window no more and see downtown, and they take their views. And something needs to be done. But if you want to go further, her husband years ago was a prosecutor in the DA's office. And now he's a federal prosecutor. And I'm a private investigator by trade, and I've gotten all types of information that I'm not going to disclose yet that just really, really shows the character of this couple. And their third property would be a short-term rental if they had not been denied. So my point for stressing that is that they have no plans at all to make any commitment to our community. But in my video, when she approaches me, she said, "This is my home. Just go around, sir." But there's no investment in the community. Why would you want to list her? So her husband and her has just recently gotten a divorce or a separation. I don't want to be quoted on exact, but they don't live in the same house. I documented that. They live next door to each other, okay? And so why would you be listing all your properties that you live in for short-term rental if you're planning on settling down?
This is great. Now, is she a teacher? I heard that she was
I
also
cannot
a
speak
teacher.
with certainty on what she is, but I did investigate a social media site that has taken down since. But I investigated a couple interesting things on the social media site. But one of them was that she claims to have worked at a facility where she counseled children in distress from the legal system. And so what you think them kids look like?
Right, exactly. Man, and it's so sad. It really is, because there are people. Because I know people who came to New Orleans with the Teachers of America, and they had good intentions, and they still live here, and they had the right goals and the right settings in mind. But there are very few. Most of them that came to the city with Teachers of America and a lot of other programs, with the goal to help the community after Katrina, definitely did the opposite.
So let me say this. What we find in that block is just that. Okay. They're accredited professionals, counselors. One of them went to Tulane. I know because there's another counselor that lives on the other block on the other side of me that was in his class. And so I want to make sure I say that particular gentleman is a very fine, upstanding gentleman. He's a single father. So that's why I noticed him. And his child happens to be mixed. It's another reason I noticed him. And I watched him, and I think he's a decent person. But overall, that community of people tends to indulge in a lot of liberal sex behavior, a lot of liberal drinking and gathering on their off time. And I've been a part of the crowds, and I've examined them. But what I would like to say in particular about this particular block is that as soon as this happened, the other white people from the block began reaching out to me and saying that, they don't deal with this woman. And that one day they saw a racial incident on that block with that woman and her family, with the black family, and that the whole side of their street had stopped dealing with this woman prior to this party. And the guy whose porch the party was on actually told me that, he first had reservations about agreeing to the party, but then he thought, okay, so we haven't spoken in a year, and maybe we can break the ice with this and become a community, right? But he said that while they were discussing the logistics of the party, that she had said, I'm going to block the street with my car. And he told her in front of other witnesses, don't do that. That's not a good idea. So if you look into her psyche now, with her prosecutor, lawyer husband, and they own 3 properties, 2 of them short-term rentals, and one that they're trying to get a short-term rental. And neighbors have given me video of the couple arguing, and the husband bamming on the car drunk and exhibiting a behavior that, would be questioned by someone who's working in a prosecutorial field, right? And these are the things they use against black people. George Floyd, we had to go against his character. And Trayvon Martin had like 5 marijuana seeds, right? But when it comes down to identifying the gentrifier, like I did acutely in my video, they're victimized. And, it's an issue that, no one wants to discuss, the pink elephant in the room. We're operating under black code. It's just covert and codified. There's no discussion. If you discuss it and you're white, they'll sacrifice you. But if you know how to do it without discussing it, you can get the loan you need from the reference you needed, from the institution they recommended, if you're just in the right circle. And so what we need to understand is that white circles are formed often, and they're not always traditional. And so they've come here now, and like Lafitte Greenway, everybody black that I've talked to wants to have a positive outlook on that. But first of all, if you look at the stats, New Orleans is one of the greenest cities in America, okay, per square foot. It's in the top of the, it's not the top, but it's not lacking any green space. So when they first came with the agenda for a green space, myself and my mother questioned it, and we were told that we didn't know what we were talking about. But what we see now that has manifested is Lafitte Greenway is a partnership. When you hear that, we're in trouble. It's a partnership that is a vehicle for gentrification, because what it did was it gave some of the most powerful entities in New Orleans that were already negating our suffrage and overlooking our abject poverty. It gave them right to and privy to city property that we just gave to the Lafitte Greenway. And when I was in the mayoral election, I got tons of solicitations to come to forums, right? But the shortest and most simple one I received was from Lafitte Greenway, and it said simply, if you're disinterested in giving us property owned by the city, then you don't need to come to our forum.
Wow.
And so
I'm being told that we gotta wrap up. We got about 3 minutes left. So I want to end it with you just telling us how where do you see this all going, and what does it being right look like to you?
So people think that I'm picketing because I'm mad she didn't get a ticket. I'm picketing because I'm going to force this conversation, the pink elephant in the room. Next Wednesday at 6 p.m., since we couldn't get any reciprocity at the first district, and we cited them on their insufficiency, next Wednesday, we will be on her block picketing, and we will be adhering to the law, peacefully protesting. And there should be no issue if it wasn't an issue that she stole city property and put her car there to block a street. It shouldn't be no issue of the 7 wards residents wanting to show our discontent in that manner.
Yes, I love that. So I'm going to follow up with you on that for sure, and probably have you come back on the podcast to recap us on where that goes, because I definitely... Oh,
they're in trouble this time, because this time I'm going to have 10 Black people with me that are all facing fee, fine, levy, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000. They done took their Airbnb status, and when I tried to encourage the NOP to go down there and investigate what I was trying to tell them was happening, that the person who owns the Airbnbs was throwing a concert, blocked the street, had her properties rented, she should lose her license as well. And so unless we address the double standards, you're going to keep selling Black people houses, and we're going to keep getting jacked out of them.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because before we started, I gave 10 tips, and I hope everybody adheres to those tips and really listen to those things. And we got to help our seniors, y'all. We have to help our elderly navigate through this internet and make sure they're taking care of their situations and definitely getting those taxes frozen. Okay, I will. We will tag Byron S. Cole. I want y'all to go follow him on Instagram. I want you guys to also, we will have this video on YouTube. You can replay it and see the whole thing. I thank you guys for coming on board with us. We're on the first and third Thursday of every month.
There's 4 videos. The second video would have went viral too had the first one not taken all the attention. Watch number 1, you'll see my posture, and then you'll know I have nothing else to explain. You saw me be approached. But watch all 4 videos on my page, Byron S. Cole.
All right, you guys, be sure to go follow Byron S. Cole on Instagram. Comment, let us know what you thought about the podcast tonight. Peace.
Only on UrbanSmartNetwork.com.